Why save money for the future when you can be creating your future today? But this is not advice I give to everybody else, but the reality is that's how I think. And a lot of entrepreneurs think that way. They're betting all in. They're betting all in every time. And so you have to be.
Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Xposed, hosted by your guy Beez. And you can tell by the title today, it's a little bit different, right? Normally we have a very specific aspect of entrepreneurship that we speak about, but our guest today really impressed me with what he does. And I almost want to say that today we're hosted by our guest, Fred Cary, right? So this is Entrepreneurship Xposed, where we talk about everything related to entrepreneurship, always with a twist of business acquisitions, hosted today by Fred Cary. Fred, how are you doing, sir? And welcome to Entrepreneurship Xposed.
Pleased to meet you. I'm happy to be here, and I'm really eager to talk about this subject. I know there's a lot of things people don't know about it, and by the end of this show, that won't be true anymore.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. I actually got my, I have a stack of books that I just keep next to me all the time. I've read all of these, except for one, maybe a cumulative 40 or plus times. Right. So I'm gonna before you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit more about you, I'm gonna tell you what these books are and why they mean something to me, and it may drive some of the conversation later. Right. The first one, I don't know if you've ever read this, and sometimes when I'm speaking on stage and I bring this up, depending on the audience, I get a certain reaction. This one is called "Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?"
Obviously, I'm the subject of that one. I haven't read it.
Well, have you ever heard of this guy named Reginald Lewis?
Yeah,
you have. All right. So most people haven't. And, I consider him the Jackie Robinson of business, right?
Yeah.
What he did with leverage buyouts, which is a strategy that I focus on in business acquisitions, was amazing. And regardless of race, white, black, red, yellow, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The strategy and the mindset is optimal. And it's just the thing that I go back to often to make sure that, I'm keeping the pace going forward and making my momentum.
Yep.
The next book is What Would the Rockefellers Do? So as I've, grown and realized that, no, it's not just about learning one thing. You got to keep learning. And there's a lot of things that we got to put together. This book really just emphasized that for me, because they took, we're making money, but you know what? We want to have generational wealth. Let's pair it with a trust. And then we need to replenish the trust through insurance policies on every member of the family. And, it's just a cycle that keeps it growing. But you got to learn about multiple things that exist in this country, in this world, in order to put it together.
Yeah.
The next book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but specifically the cash flow quadrant aspect of it, because it helped me to understand, get out of the employee mindset, get out of the self-employed mindset. Hell, even get out of the business owner mindset and maybe want to consider the investor mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Because each quadrant has different aspects. So I've focused, as a matter of fact, the shirt that I have on right now is one of my own brands. You can see on the top, it says self-employed, works in the business, CEO works on the business, and investor works above the business. Right? Because the CEO is just another job, and I'm not specifically looking for jobs. I'm looking for investments that are going to produce revenue for me, right? So that's it. And then the last three are with a friend of mine named Adam Coffey, you might be familiar with. This one just came out last month, so I haven't gone through it fully yet. But his other two, Private Equity Playbook and Exit Strategy Playbook, are awesome reads for me. So We'll stop there because that'll drive some of the conversation. But please introduce yourself and let the audience know more about who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Fred Cary. I've been an entrepreneur for more decades than I care to mention. Started 10 different companies, and about 4 years ago, I started a company called Idea Pros, and the value proposition in that company is to really enable outsider entrepreneurs, which is about 95% of folks that want to be entrepreneurs. And it's an audience that...
Hey guys, before we get into the full episode of Entrepreneurship Xposed, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for supporting this channel. This channel means so much to me. You all mean so much to me because this information is the type of things that I wish that I knew when I was like 17 years old. Right? We're talking about wealth creation strategies, not plays. Never talking about, hey, we could run this quick play to make some quick money. This is all about sustainable strategies that won't go anywhere. Whatever else you may be doing, this information will supplement it and help you take it to a whole nother level. So what I would love to ask each and every one of you is if you could like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, do all of that for me. It supports the channel, it helps us to grow, helps us to get this information out to more people so that we could change more lives. So thank you again for supporting. Make sure that whatever you see in here, whatever you learn in here, that you go and execute on it. And then drop a comment and let me know how it went out for you. Hopefully I'll even see you in the BBI where I teach how to acquire businesses and everything about entrepreneurship. Let's go.
Folks that want to be entrepreneurs, and it's an audience that until I started Idea Pros was really neglected. And it's been a hell of a journey. I've had, in the last 2.5 years, I've had 100,000 applications to work with me. We've taken 400 companies so far, and we've got another few thousand to go. But it's the hardest I've ever worked, but it's also the most rewarding work I've ever done.
Awesome. Can you give a little bit more insight into the value prop of Idea Pros so the audience knows?
Yeah. So the average entrepreneur that wants to start out, and there's 550,000 of them every month in the US alone, they're not just out of grad school, have a professor that can call up venture capitalists and get a $10,000 check or $10 million check for an idea. They're 30 to 55. They're in corporate America. They're people just like you guys listening that are not really happy where they are and want to do something else, want to make a big change in their life, but they don't have the support system, the infrastructure to be able to go out on their own. And what Idea Pros does, it's kind of an upside down venture capital firm because you pay us instead of us giving you money to throw away. But we train you to be a kick-ass entrepreneur, and we build your business with you. So you make a initial contribution, if you will, and every single element of starting a business, learning strategy, naming, branding, positioning, app development, engineering, all that stuff until nationwide launch, we cover all of it. So we know it's done right and you're trained right, and so you have an unfair advantage when you launch. You launch just like an insider would.
Nice, I love that. That type of help is extremely important. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned, the book "Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?" Reginald Lewis's daughter, one of his daughters, Leslie. She's a good friend of mine now. I met her. She told me that her father would be proud of what I'm doing, and that brought a tear to my eye for sure. But she has something similar too. I think it's called multi-generational is the concept behind it. And it's helping entrepreneurs to really get started along, every aspect of the way. So I definitely want to introduce you to at some point, maybe you guys work together on things with it too.
Awesome. We love that.
Yeah. Now, but you said something that, this is Entrepreneurship Xposed, hosted by Fred Cary. And you mentioned about you're helping entrepreneurs to start businesses. Now, I've said to myself now that I will never start another business from scratch. I will only acquire. I like the head start that I get through the acquisition. I'm acquiring only cash flowing businesses. I have, very specific acquisition criteria. What are your thoughts on business acquisitions compared to, starting a business from scratch?
It's a different mindset, and you have to have different skills to be able to pull that off. Not everybody can do that, and not everybody can be an entrepreneur. It's the most successful or the most likely to be successful entrepreneurs are ones that have this great determination, this drive, this passion. They have something in their head that they just can't let go of. When you're doing what you do, it's a lot more calculated. It's a a lot more, right? These are the 7 criteria that I need because they hit all these boxes. Entrepreneurship is just jumping out the window and hoping for the best. They're just completely different mindset people. And oh, by the way, I wish I had done it your way, because I'm working a lot harder than you probably are, because I got 400 startups that call me daddy.
Ooh. Yeah, I mind you, I almost do believe it. It's hard for me to say this because I tell people, hey, you truthfully could get the head start by going into the acquisition route instead. But I definitely value my time as a startup entrepreneur, the businesses that I started and then exited. That really helped me to pave the way for more success through acquisitions overall. So, it's definitely important to get an understanding on both sides to be truly effective. I looked up to, and still do, to Warren Buffett and to Charlie Munger, rest in peace. What are your thoughts on what they did, with Berkshire Hathaway and such, in terms of consistently acquiring, not interfering with the experts, right? So we acquire, we're not going to say, hey, we're going to change everything now. We're letting the experts continue to run it the way they have been running it, but now they got additional resources and a scaling plan or an exit plan. What are your thoughts on the example that they've set over the years?
Well, it's unachievable by most. He has a combination of 3 different things. I think number one, very extraordinarily talented and very frugal, and knows when to stay out of the way. So he throws a lot of fuel on the fires of companies that are already ignited, or companies that have made a turn that may not be the best, but have an easy way to navigate to back to where they were, or even a better space. But that takes an unusual amount of discipline to get into the right deals, to fund them the right way, and to actually admit when you make mistakes and get the hell out. When as they have exited several deals over time, of course, just like anybody would. But that's a lofty goal to be Warren.
Hey, that's good. But I like to say, dream big or dream bigger, right?
Yes,
and I got that from when people used to say, go hard or go home. Oh, go hard or go harder. Well, I'm gonna go home. If I'm determined, I'm gonna make it happen. But then I realized, it's even beyond that. Dream big or dream bigger, because you're dreaming bigger. Even if you don't hit that goal, you have something you're working towards, and you can pivot along the way, of course, right? And you kind of mentioned that about pivoting, knowing to get out of investments and knowing when to pivot. Wouldn't you say that's a key aspect, not just of the investor side, but just entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah, what I tell my entrepreneurs, or anybody that listens to me on Instagram, is that every single day you have to think about how to make yourself obsolete. Because if you're not thinking about it, somebody else is. Right? If you don't have any traction, don't worry about it, because nobody's looking at you. But as soon as you start getting traction, right? Everybody with their $1 million, $1 billion idea, forget that. There is no such thing. It takes this dedication and spirit and determination and perseverance. And once you start getting that traction, you can't sit on those laurels, because now you're noticed. Now other companies that you compete against are looking at what you're doing, trying to figure out how to do it better, try to figure out how to make you obsolete. So if you're not thinking about making yourself obsolete, they're going to do it for you. So constantly change, constantly pivot, constantly find that right path to go down, and it's never a straight line, ever.
I love it. And another thing that I noticed on your content online, years ago, I wasn't the biggest fan of Tony Robbins, right? And I tell the story all the time, because Tony was, if you believe, you can achieve, and you can do it. And at the time I was, I'm motivated. I don't need your motivation. I need the recipe. I need to know how. Can you tell me more of that? And, coming from Jamaica, and there's a totally different mindset in Jamaica, things like credit's bad, debt's bad, and a variety of things. there's another joke or stereotype. Jamaicans have a lot of jobs. And it was actually true. There's a lot of family members that would have 3 or 4 or 5 jobs at the same time, but yet they were still living check to check. They were still broke. So I realized that there has to be more. You know, I'm being told certain things by my community, the family, the people around me, but there has to be more. So what I realized eventually with Tony is that he wasn't just selling motivation, it was mindset that he was selling. And I realized the importance of it because I started creating a Rubicon of what I need to follow from a mindset perspective in order to be successful. And I realize that you're talking a lot about that too. Can you dig into what is the most important things from a mindset perspective for an entrepreneur?
I can, but I also want to focus on what you said about, tell me how the fuck to do it. And because there's so many people all over social media that will tell you, just get up and believe and, and just believe in what? How do I do this? And so there's not that many people giving you instructions on what to do, and which I try to do differently. I have a lot of free content. By the way, on ideapros.com, there's free membership there. And we give you stuff every single week. We also have couple times a month we have master classes or workshops, again completely free, to tell you how to do it. But the reality is, back to your question, now that I plugged myself, back to your question is that the mindset of an entrepreneur, it's really difficult. I have a friend that has a company called Launch Factory here in San Diego, and they have cohorts. It's basically like a startup studio, and they had 1,000 people that applied to be in the cohort. They choose 8, and they are really, really strict in their requirements. But one of the biggest factors is just the kind of mental, emotional resilience that you have, and a whole bunch of people get knocked out just by taking a test on what your personality is like. Because if you can't accept failure over and over again as a little bit of a detour or a stop sign on your way to success, you're never going to make it. And all these people that everybody looks at, well, this is a billionaire, that's a billionaire. I was talking to the Airbnb guys. They could not raise $150,000 at a $1.5 million post-money valuation. They couldn't get that money from anybody, and you look at these guys and go, wow, it's amazing what they're doing. Nobody would give them a penny. And the only reason they made it, and by the way, they made it to $1 billion company, and then COVID happened and they lost 85% of their revenue overnight and still persevered, right? So that journey never ends. And so you have to have the character to fight these battles and realize that, all right, I'm going to wake up another day and there's going to be a fucking dragon in my room ready to take me out. And I welcome it. If you don't have that, you don't really have what it's going to take to be successful, because the odds are against all of us.
100%. This just happened 2 weeks ago. Came back from a cruise, and I found out that my sister was in the hospital. And my brother told me she had a surgery and she went in and did it on her own. We were like, what? Nobody knew. So when I was talking to her and she told me what happened and why she went in, and then she was like, B, I'm just going through a lot. There's a lot of things happening with kids, with mom, with this and all of that. And I said, all right, Ebs, her name's Ebony. Ebs, life is hard, but it gets worse. And she thought I was going to say it gets better. I was like, no, it gets worse. As you get older, you're adulting. And now you got more things that's going to happen and more things come placed upon you. And you're just like, oh, I feel like I'm always spinning my head. But once you come to grips with the fact that it does get worse, you also realize how beautiful it is. You also realize that you can push through anything. I still remember there was one of the biggest challenges in my life was when this girl broke up with me in high school, and I thought my life was over.
Broke up with me too. That's the same thing.
And hey, here we are years later. Right? So I believe heavily in that we have to be able to persevere beyond those things. There's a lot of challenges in life, but we got to look at them as lessons. And it goes back to mindset perspective again, overall. Now you mentioned you mentioned just weathering those moments of storm. So I know a lot of people may ask you, tell me how you made your first $1 million, but I want to know about that $1 million that you lost, that you mentioned in one of your clips. You said when you lost your first $1 million. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, that actually somebody had asked me when I made my first $1 million, and I said 2 years before I lost
Lost
my
it.
first.
Yes.
And well, that was just young and stupid. I've done it plenty of times, old and stupid. But that first one was just cars and women and travel but over time, like even now with Idea Pros, as successful as we are, in the beginning of this year, I made a determination that I couldn't take any new partners because it literally was like drinking through a fire hose. And I said, look, I can get this company from 25 million to maybe 50 million, but that's it. I'm not going to be able to go any further than that. And that's not enough for me. And so how do I change what I'm doing? How do I pivot drastically something that's already successful? How do I pivot to make it so I can go way beyond those numbers? And literally, I had to make the hard decision of not taking any more partners, throwing $1 million of my own money into my company to support us while I was trying to figure this crap out. And then finally, last month, figuring out how to do this in a way that could get us to $1 billion. I lost $1 million doing that, right? It went into paying for my staff, paying for the processes that we had to continue building out for the partners that we do have, partners/clients that we do have. And so you lose money all the time. As much as you make money, you have a great opportunity to lose it as well when you're an entrepreneur. You just got to take the wallet out and go for it. When you stop believing in yourself, that's when you're going to end up losing.
You can see Britt just popped up on there. She just took the words out of my mouth. Amen. Let's put that back up on the screen real quick, because as Fred was saying that, as it was going through my head, amen. That is the truth. So
yeah, I love Britt. We should have her on the show.
Oh, there we go. Hey, Britt, come on. Because it is hosted by Fred today, right? So,
yeah, that's right.
Now, Fred, let's talk a little bit about Boxlot and that exit and how that went. Was that your first big exit?
No, but it was a really nice exit, and I think it's a great entrepreneurial example of how screwed up entrepreneurship is, and how you got to be crazy to do this stuff. But if you're crazy, how you can do really well with it. So Boxlot, I started Boxlot kind of on the heels of eBay, and eBay was just starting to grow, becoming this powerhouse. Auction, but not really good auctions. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't I have a great auction place that has really good things, and then I'm going to beat the shit out of them. Which turns out people love crap, and they don't love really good things. I mean, I had a $2 million stamp on there. I had exotic cars. I had trips around the world. I had all sorts of things, but I just couldn't catch up to what they were doing. And finally got to the point, and we had probably $8 million invested into the company by that point. We got to the point where I knew we couldn't compete, but I knew this was a really good space. And so I started really thinking about, where are the pain points in this space? What else could I be doing here? I'm in the right place. I'm in the wrong room. And so the willingness to kind of think outside the box and look, I decided that we needed to become an engineering company. We needed to be a software company, because the infrastructure to support auctions, the multiple bidding, the bidding increments, the bid or buy, reverse bidding, notification when somebody outbid you, none of those things existed. And so we turned Boxlot into this entrepreneurial software company. And 18 months later, we got an offer for $125 million to acquire us, when we were doing $1 million in revenue. So we found the right way to address a market that needed us, but they didn't need us the way that we wanted to be needed.
Awesome. I have a good friend of mine that says, you don't sell products and services, you sell solutions.
Yeah.
And you said something similar online as well.
Yeah.
And it seems here in the case of BoxLot, you also pivoted for a better solution that was more in need. Would you say that? Okay.
Nobody needed the $2 million stamp.
There we go. Okay.
One person needed it.
One person.
Doesn't make it happen.
Exactly. Now, another important thing that you've mentioned online that I think every entrepreneur needs to know. So I have twins that are 9 years old, and actually it's with Leslie. You can see Leslie right there. She just popped up on the screen as well. But my son is boy-girl twins. My son, my daughter's awesome too, but my son, it's like Mensa. Anything that he's interested in, he comes back and does it to a high extent. A high level. I'm like, how did you do this? And I was just on YouTube and I found some lessons on YouTube.
Right.
And I like that. I like his initiative. I like what he's doing with it, but I always fear the information that's out there that he's getting, right? And you mentioned that as well about how there's like a lot of trash that's just available now. You said the lowest common denominator has bubbled up to the top. As an entrepreneur trying to learn what to do, obviously it's important to get mentors, but for those who start online trying to find information on what to do, what would your advice be to them, given the crap that is out there in information?
Yeah, don't do it, is my advice. My advice is that, when you have a 20-year-old guy with a Lamborghini behind him telling you how if you spend $500, you're going to be a multimillionaire in 3 days, it's not how it is. The entrepreneurial journey is a very hard, very long one, and it's really not for the faint of heart. There's no easy way to do it. We were talking before we went on about people showing up and I got $1 million idea and I'm willing to let you invest in it. I'm going to make you billions. That's not how it works. Nobody gives a shit about your idea. It's execution that matters, and execution is really, really hard. And back to the Airbnb guys, I love them because the deeper you look into the story, the more you think, wow, these guys are, they really did the impossible. The whole thing with them was every venture capitalist they went to, they were kicked out of because it was like, wait a minute, you're trying to tell us that you're going to get people to let strangers stay with them? Get the hell out of my office. And really they became the world's first true serial entrepreneurs, because that's the way they made money is during a presidential election. They made Obama O's and Captain McCain's. They were running against each other. They made these serials. They put them in the apartments that they were renting out, which, by the way, they're renting out air mattresses in those apartments. That's why it became Airbnb, or bed and breakfast originally. They were selling them for $40. They sold out of them. They had to go to the dollar store to buy cornflakes and Captain Crunch and put them into. They had an artist make boxes for them, and they made enough money to do that, and they sold them for $40. And the very first investment that they got, which was only $20, one of the guys from Y Combinator said, "You know what? If you guys can get people to pay $40 for a box of cereal, you just might be able to get people to let strangers in their home. Here's your first 20." And they started down that path. But the reality is everybody else would have given up.
Yes. Everybody
told them they were a piece of shit. Everybody told them the idea was awful. Even their parents were telling them, what are you doing? Go back to school. And they persevered. And that's a journey. So if you're on social media and you're seeing somebody's going to tell you, follow these 3 things and become fucking famous, it's not going to happen.
Ron, 100%. I agree. And first of all, I didn't know that story about Airbnbs. That's awesome. I didn't know how they started with that. I knew when they were in Y Combinator, but I didn't know about the whole cereal boxes and things.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Amazing.
Now, I told you about my community where I also teach investors how to acquire businesses, especially how to do leverage buyouts. Often I have people that come in and they're like, wow, there's just so much information to learn. Can't you just sum it up in 5 minutes? How am I going to possibly sum up everything I've been doing for decades now in 5 minutes? You want a 20-minute video and you're going to be a millionaire? That's not how it works. So I ended up coming up with what I call my 4 pillars of success. And this all started from the Tony Robbins story, where I was like, I don't need motivation. I need, instructions. And then I realized it was mindset. And then I said, well, hold on. My mindset shifted in a few ways that helped me to become more successful. So I created these pillars of success, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it. The first is networking. Absolutely important. Every time I 10x the business or anything was because I was at an event and I was networking, actively networking, met people, led to a partnership that led to something else, and the rest was history. But the thing with networking is not just who you know, it's who knows you. Because you go in a room and you could be quiet and like, yeah, I met Elon Musk in there, but he don't remember me at all. So it's not really as effective, right? So yeah, networking, the first thing. Second thing is you have to leave some people behind. I say that because when I was trying to become an entrepreneur, an investor, try to come up, I was surrounded by people who were not doing that. And anything I said, similar to the Airbnb, their parents were even like, nah, this ain't gonna work. Everybody was telling me that. Nah, you cashed out your 401k to invest in that? No, you're crazy. You gotta save for your. I was like, yeah, I've since then probably, I don't even know the number anymore. 4,000 times what was in my 401k has been made since then, based off of what I used from there. So you have to leave some people behind because they're not on the same journey as you. You still love them, but you got to, keep moving forward. There's 4, but third pillar of success is you have to buy seats at tables. A lot of times people, one of the things I hate the most, and you may be familiar with it, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I take you to lunch and pick your brain? If I went to lunch with everybody that said that to me, I would be eating from 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, no, you can't take me to lunch and pick my brain. Thank you, but I'm well fed.
You'd be 600 pounds.
Exactly. So I always tell people, listen, invest in someone's mentorship, go to a conference and pay the money to go to the conference. And while you're there, make sure you are networking. But while you're there networking and you left some people behind and you bought that seat at the table, you have to build your own table as well. You start meeting with other people, you start, like-minded people, you start coming together and then building together. New partnerships are created overall. So those are my 4 pillars of success, which I eventually added a foundation and a roof. The foundation is financial literacy, and the roof is always seeking new knowledge because things change, things evolve. What are your thoughts of that little house that I just created?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about people, right? People make the world go around, and associating with the right ones will help you on your journey. And so I think that, and by the way, I kind of sucked at that until just a couple of years ago, and now I do that all the time, and I see the value of it. I mean, even I told you on Monday I was up in Palo Alto because we're raising capital for our company, and I got to speak to a whole lot of investors, and they got to see me the way I really am. Other than that, they'll see a pitch deck or a one-sheeter or somebody tell you about some other company. But when you can get in the same room with people and show them why they have a better chance of success with you than without you, then that's a very, very powerful thing. In fact, I started a little side story here, but just an example of how right on you are with those pillars. So there was 10 different companies pitching, and they were terrible. And this was in a church of all places, and they had the hymnals or whatever they're called, the songbooks in the pews. And so when I got up, when it was my turn, when I had 6 minutes, when it was my turn, I said, I got to tell you, for the first time in years, I'm kind of afraid and nervous. And I looked over at the judges and I said, not because of you guys, because I'm in a church. And then I said, but since I'm in a church, I'd like you guys to pull out your books and turn to page 339, and somebody tell me what that title of that song is on 339. And some woman stood up and she said, "He shall deliver unto thee." And I said, and that's right. And I turned to the investors that were judging the competition. I said, and I delivered 4 times to my investors because I've taken investors in 4 companies and they got a minimum of a 10x return. That's why you need to listen to me for the next 5 minutes. So So now, people see I'm humorous, I can think on my feet, and I've told, before I even started, told the investors that, hey, you want to bet on a winner, listen to what I have to say. You can't do that sending an email. You can't do that like just, hey, here's our pitch deck, what do you think of our company? So yeah, get your network, get out there, avoid the people that are anchors around your neck, and find people that are going to be sales on your journey forward.
Ooh, I love that. Another aspect of it, and some people in the audience are going to know exactly who I'm talking about. But it's
not you guys. It's not you.
As simple as turning on your video on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
In the very least, right? Because it's a whole different conversation and interaction when you have on your video and can see, you recognize facial cues, etc. It just makes all the difference. But yes, we got to do these things. So I really love it.
Footnote: investment bankers never turn on their damn video. Whenever I'm talking to investment bankers, and I'm like, why's your video on? Because I'm on my phone. I'm between deals, and So. But everybody else, turn on that damn video.
Exactly. So I noticed you're a dog dad. You have 3?
Well, I technically have none. My daughters have dogs, but I am the one that's always shepherding everything and putting everyone together. My daughter's 2 little dogs, despite our best efforts and them not listening to me about getting them fixed, went locked up, and now we have 4 on top of everything else.
Okay. So the reason why I asked that is because although as an entrepreneur, as an investor, we tend to, travel a lot. There's a lot of times we have to be on the road, but I find that entrepreneurship is not just about the business side of things. It's also the personal side. It's also the mental side, the physical side. And I know that you focus on your routine in the morning, your routine before you get to work, right? So I'm in the gym I have it blocked out on my calendar. No meetings are to be booked during these hours. And I hit the gym during that time. I go through my routine. It helps me to get, ready for the day, the week, and so forth. And dogs or pets, I really believe it helps me with trauma, trauma, entrepreneurship trauma. What are your thoughts on that overall?
No, absolutely. And we also have a cat that decides when you're allowed to pet it, and at that point is pleading like a little baby. But other than that, it could give a shit about you. But when you have your hardest days, and you look at these animals and they're just happy. They're happy because why? They're on the same roof that you have. They're sleeping on the same bed many times that you have. They're eating from the same kitchen that you eat. So why the hell aren't you happy? They're just fine. Be like them. As long as you have that roof over your head, as long as you're making ends meet, no matter what trauma there is, learn from your pets. Learn the fact that in the greater scheme of things, none of this matters. They could come and take everything away from me. I'll find a way to start over again. And you have to have that kind of attitude, because you have to constantly know that there's a possibility that you lose everything, like your 401k, right? And by the way, I'm the same. I don't have, I have a retirement plan on my walls, but besides that, I don't have one. Why save money for the future when you can be creating your future today? But this is not advice I give to everybody else, but the reality is that's how I think. And a lot of entrepreneurs think that way. They're betting all in. They're betting all in every time. And so you have to be prepared that sometimes when you bet all in, somebody's knocking on your door to get you the hell out of the house. That happens sometimes. But you cannot let any of those things get you nervous, get you upset, and have you ponder, question yourself. Just keep going for it. And that's the way you make it.
Well said. It's the muscle that you have to exercise, because if you're in your 9 to 5, and I'm not harping on people who decide they love their career and they want to stay in it. I just tell those people that if you're going to do that, also have additional streams of revenue, whatever it may be. Because once that rug gets pulled from underneath your feet, you're going to be like scrambling. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
When the rug gets pulled underneath the feet of an entrepreneur, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Well, I know how to make money, so I'm going to have to I can get it back. Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
So, that muscle, exercising that muscle of, I know how to make money, I know how to get it back is critical to dealing with the trauma of being an entrepreneur. Now, I know we're pressed for time too, so I want to jump right into our pop segment. All right. So,
sweet. Yeah. Because I'm going to be trying to get money in 10 minutes from it. Palo Alto.
So Fred Cary is going to pop entrepreneurship, period, today for us. All right. So Fred, what would you say are the pros, opportunities, and problems, the most important ones of entrepreneurship?
Well, look, the pros of entrepreneurship are obvious. If you look around you, the people that are changing the world are the entrepreneurs of the world, and to be able to do something that's impactful either in your community, I like to say in your world or even the world, you can do that with entrepreneurship. It's really hard to do that any other way. So if you have this kind of ambition that never quits, and you know that you have a gift to give to the world or your community, then there's no other way to do it than that. So that's there. And the opportunity is the fact that America is driven on the backs of entrepreneurship. It is something that small businesses. Now, when I say entrepreneurship, by the way, you could be an entrepreneur dentist. How am I going to have a practice that's different? Maybe I'm going to have a preventative dentistry practice where I'm going to guarantee you're not going to get one cavity as long as you're with me. Who the hell wouldn't go to that guy, right? But nobody's doing that. That's entrepreneurship. So this country just lives on that backbone. And so the opportunity is robust. The ability to raise capital is, even in hard times, if you know how to do it, then it's there for you, unlike any other country in the world. In the downside, the P side, the problem side of it.
Most important side, knowing those problems.
Yeah. You're going to lose more than you win. You just got to win less. You look at Dyson. Dyson made 5,600 prototypes of his vacuum cleaner before he launched. 10 years. It took Google 10 years. Google was called Backrub when they first came out, because they would rank you based on the backlinks or how many other websites referred to your website. Almost every thing you can look at. You can look at people. Oprah Winfrey, she was homeless and lived in a car. Look up 10 billionaires that were homeless, and you'll see they're there. These journeys are very, very hard journeys. So the problems are, it's not what you see on social media. And the dream that I have this $1 billion idea is a fantasy. The reality is you're not going to have a billion idea until you build $1 billion company. And that takes perseverance, incredible strength and fortitude, and surrounding yourself with the right people. And as you said in your pillars, get rid of the ones that aren't.
There we go. You guys heard it here first, second, and last. From Fred Cary himself. That is us popping entrepreneurship, right? So listen, guys, guys and gals, you're out there, you have this dream, you want to live life on your own terms. One of the best ways to do it is through entrepreneurship, but don't think it's going to be an easy cakewalk. It was actually a relative. I didn't want to call him out too much. And he said that he wants to have a business making money first while he's in his 9-to-5. He wants his side business making money first before he puts effort into it. I was like, how in the world would that work? I couldn't believe it.
Sign me up.
I was like, yeah, if that exists, I don't know. I guess I want it too. But it's we got to be realistic, everybody. Yeah. We got to put effort into the things that we really want to succeed in, and don't think that it's going to be overnight. It's going to be years of heartache and trials before everybody considers you an overnight success, even though you've been putting in all those years.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
So listen, Fred, it's been amazing conversation. I actually have so much more, but I know you gotta go make that money because you got a deal that's you're about to get funded. Are you doing? You did mention that you're doing roll-ups in Idea Pros right now. So you're acquiring other related. Is it more vertical integration, horizontal integration that you're focusing on?
Yeah. What I want to do is, as we said, the title here, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs have needs from how do I become an entrepreneur to how do I become a kick-ass entrepreneur to how do I figure out strategy? What's market research all about? What's my go-to-market plan? Who are my customers? How do I build an app? Like the whole journey, there are all these little pieces, and we do them very poorly. And so I'm trying to, with this roll-up, create this innovation center where no matter what you need, if you just need a little advice or if you want to become a partner and build a big company with us, that we have solutions for you. So it's just kind of all the way along the line horizontally, so that anything from pregnant thought to 100 million or more exit, we have a solution for you.
Oh, maybe I need to sell the BVI to you, and then you can focus on the business acquisitions aspect of it as well. So I don't know.
Well, hit me up. Connections.
There we go. What's the best way for everybody to get in touch with you going forward? And we'll make sure we drop it in the description below as well.
Yeah. My executive assistant kills me every time I say this, but just write to Fred at Idea Pros. Fred at ideapros.com. I'll answer you, or she'll screen you, and then I'll answer you. Or go to official Fred Cary on Instagram. I have 500,000 followers on there, but I answer my DMs as well, which is another thing that freaks her out.
How do you do
that? I don't sleep.
Man, I don't know. Okay, that would be a whole other conversation, because I have problems with my 50,000 followers answering everybody. So you're awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't answer dick pics, but other than that.
All right, guys, don't send none of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this guy. But Fred, okay, so we'll make sure. Definitely, we got Fred at ideapros.com. We already got official Fred Cary on IG. You guys reach out to Fred. He's doing amazing things. These are the types of people you should surround yourself with, but don't go asking to pick his brain. Go, and you'll be surprised. He'll probably call you directly if you're leading with adding value, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's how it should be. But Fred, thank you so much for
hosting
Entrepreneurship Xposed.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The first show I posted. I love it. All right.
Awesome.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. So that is it with Fred. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you turn on that notification bell so you don't miss conversations like this. And I'll see you on the next episode of Entrepreneurship Xposed.